My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere. Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the My Doctor podcast. Welcome to our series of lifestyle changes. Yeah, we are here again to talk about lifestyle. We had an episode last week. If you haven't watched it, you can go back about metabolic syndrome. And we talked about five lifestyle changes that you can do to live a healthy life. And so today we're starting on those. And for today, we're going to be talking about substance abuse. And for substances, we have things like alcohol, drugs, smoking, all that. And we're going to be debunking all that. What happens in your body when you take alcohol? Why do you feel happy? Why are you dancing? What happens the next morning? What happens to all the organs in your body? And what are the long-term effects of alcohol, right? So, and I found out recently that Uganda is one of the leading countries in taking alcohol. I think we are the third. We could be the third right now. So if I was a news reporter, I'd say we're putting from the source. So this topic is very important, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So welcome back, Dr. Yacoub.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Indeed, I'm happy to be back.
We're also happy to have you. Could you reintroduce yourself to maybe someone new who's watching today?
Yes. So my name is Dr. Yacoub, medical doctor, behavioral scientist, passionate about lifestyle change, and the team lead at Vigilant Living, promoting health coaching.
Health coaching. Okay, that's beautiful. So today our topic is substance abuse, and I'd want us to start with alcohol. I feel like it's the most common in our setting. So for alcohol, let's start with what alcohol is, like just the types. I don't know. I think people know, but just.
Yeah. So I think, indeed, you can say alcohol is the drink of gods. You know, they used to say that was it the Greeks or the Romans? It's a substance which has been there, I would say, probably as much as humans we existed. It has always been there. Ethanol, which is the main chemical compound. Yeah, it has, of course, different types depending on the concentration of ethanol within that sort of alcohol drink. Yeah, which at the same time they have the different effects on the body. Yeah.
Okay. So probably we have things like beers, spirits, wines, even traditional Malwa. I don't know if you've heard of Malwa. So alcohol comes from way back. So what happens when I take a shot or I take a bottle of beer? What happens to my body? What happens in my body here?
Okay. So alcohol, I think we talked about it last week on how it's one of the four main risk factors for these chronic diseases. If I just recap, I'll say they also call the four horsemen of death. Just like the four horsemen of apocalypse, you have diabetes, you have cancer, heart diseases, and dementia and neurodegenerative diseases. So alcohol contributes to all of them. Yes, plays a role in all of them. Yes, why do we take alcohol? Even though, yes, it has all these side effects. Alcohol leads to happiness, euphoria, joy, relieves stress. It's also become part of, like in Uganda, it's a highly cultural, it contributes to cultural gatherings. So it plays a role in keeping both the individual but as well as the society. So it plays a big role, yes.
The society happy. Okay, but then also in regards to that, someone could ask, because I feel like alcohol treats people differently. So when you're in a bar setting, there's some people who will take and they're happy, they're dancing, they're on the stage, and someone else will take and they start crying. What happens to the brain when you take alcohol?
Okay.
Because different people react differently. Yeah.
Fair enough. So the brain, as we know, has different parts. In the front of the brain is what we call the frontal lobe, which is the part of the brain which is responsible for executive functioning. What it means to be a human being, to function in society, to behave well. Alcohol turns off the frontal lobe. So you stop following the rules, the societal rules which we grew up with, and that's why people behave in all the kind of extreme ways to some extent. Yes, sometimes not necessarily. So at the same time, there's what we call personalities. We all have different personalities, mainly the big 5 personality traits. So people who are maybe more introverted, when they will take alcohol, they will become a bit more introverted, a bit more quiet. People who are more extroverted, they take alcohol, they become more extrovert. Yeah. So it's just, the word we use is disinhibition. It removes the inhibition. So if, let me say, as a guy, you had a girl you wanted to introduce yourself, a sip of alcohol opens that door for you. In a sense, it removes the anxiety. Yeah.
Okay, so I want us dive into what alcohol does to the body step by step. So I'll start with the outside. So most times people associate beer with a big tummy, right? So how does that happen? And can it be controlled or yeah?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, continuation of our episode last week, yes, these metabolic conditions, alcohol itself contributes to it. Taking alcohol, breaking down the alcohol within the liver, number one, it leads to reducing the sugars the body was taking. So that body now, that sugars starts getting deposited in the liver specifically, but even around the stomach. So someone can actually be malnourished. They don't have a lot of energy in the body, but they have been storing it specifically in the stomach area. Yes.
Can they do anything about it if they've gotten it?
Yes. Of course, the lifestyle change of dieting and exercise, yes, you can recover from it. Of course, there's what we call also ascites, which is a condition which develops when the alcohol damages the liver. The liver becomes inflamed. The liver now starts getting scarred and dying off. And now that's an extreme condition. That's now when it's like having water in the stomach. Yeah, that one is different.
Okay, back to the brain. Some studies say that alcohol kills brain cells. So the more someone takes alcohol, the more dumb they become. And also, it shrinks the brain, right? So it leads to brain atrophy. So if a non-alcoholic gets an accident and an alcoholic gets an accident, the alcoholic is more prone to injury like subdural hematomas and what. So is that accurate? How does that happen?
Yeah. So just like we said, alcohol takes the sugar away from the body and the brain needs that sugar. So I've actually met a patient who developed what we call brain ischemia. So the brain part of the brain actually died off because it stuffed the alcohol. Because at the same time, alcohol also removes appetite. So someone can actually be hungry, but they don't know. Likewise, alcohol also removes what we call the micronutrients, which the brain needs and even the body. So the vitamins. Lastly, alcohol also removes water from the body. So there's a lot of dehydration. Yeah, there's a lot of urination on this alcohol. So all of those different impact of alcohol contribute to the damage in the brain and the brain dying off to some extent. Yeah.
So that means that someone could their memory could deteriorate and everything.
Exactly, yes. Specifically, there's a part of the brain which is responsible for even speech, the Wernicke part of the brain. So if you remember, that aspect. So when someone takes alcohol, they also lose that vitamin A. So even the speech becomes a challenge. Memory declines. So just like I mentioned, one of the 4 horsemen of death, one of them was the dementia and neurodegenerative diseases, the Alzheimer's. So alcohol, yes, it's a big risk factor for those conditions, yeah.
Okay, now we'll go to the liver. Now, alcohol affects the liver, that's a fact. But the liver regenerates, yeah? So now when people are taking alcohol, there's even a saying that when you're taking alcohol, you should take it to maybe liver, so that it attacks the wrong liver, or even if it attacks your liver, it will regenerate. So how accurate is that? And at what point can someone go into liver disease from alcohol here?
Yes, true. The liver regenerates. In fact, if today you need a liver, actually someone can give you a small part of the liver, and that part can grow. But there's only so much the liver can regenerate. Because what alcohol does, it will keep on damaging, the liver regenerates, but it will leave a scar. So those scar keeps on increasing. That's now when the liver stops functioning, at least part of it. I don't know whether eating liver can bring back the liver, but it's just a myth. Yeah, it's not.
So what
real.
happens in case someone has gone overboard? What would happen to the liver?
So the liver goes through these steps. Number one, yes, there's a lot of scarring. Then the liver becomes inflamed. So the liver becomes sick. Like now someone who, for example, gets hepatitis, that condition, the virus, is the same thing alcohol does to the liver. The liver becomes inflamed. Lastly, the liver stops working at all, which is what we call liver cirrhosis. Now that's the one and the role of the liver in the body is so crucial that it produces a lot of the energy, it produces a lot of the body products, it removes the toxins. So all of those things now starts attacking the body. So the brain gets toxins, the liver, the kidneys, the stomach, the lungs, the heart. Yeah, that's now, it's just a slow, painful death.
Okay,
I'd
okay.
say.
So also in regards to like alcohol taking, still with the myths, some people believe that some people are immune to alcohol. Or it could actually, I don't know, it could, to some extent, it sounds true because I could take a one bottle of Smirnoff and I'm off. I'm dancing and someone else needs 10 to reach that level. So what happens? Are some people immune? Have they just become tolerant to it and they're, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more of that tolerance. The more you take that substance, because alcohol works on the brain by releasing hormones, which we call now the GABAs. That's the inhibitory hormones. That's why we said alcohol leads to disinhibition. So the more you take it, the more the body becomes used to it, and the more substance you need to take to reach the same impact, which is the tolerance. And that's why someone starts from maybe I don't know, wine before they realize they are in UG, because the wine is not working anymore. So that's, the body keeps on building, the brain keeps on building, and that's why it's also addictive, because you need more. You
More
need to
and
go
more.
back to it. Yeah.
Earlier, we talked about how alcohol can affect the brain and it affects the frontal lobe, so your thinking is down and everything. And so, most times in this period, people tend to, maybe someone is too drunk and they have sex. Actually, most people who have alcohol and they're too drunk end up in that direction. So, does it have an effect on that? Like, how do they end up there? And is it okay? Is there consent? Are they understanding what they're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you can say in a sense, man is an animal. So alcohol just takes us back to the jungle in a sense. You behave a way maybe an animal will behave, because now you don't really have to follow the social rules and the conformity. So in a sense, alcohol leads to its own diseases, but it also puts you at risk for acquiring all the kind of other diseases which can either kill you or even disable you. So yes, STIs, HIV, hepatitis, unprotected sex, road traffic accident, because someone can be driving, or you can be the one walking on the road, but now the person who's driving the car can be drunk. Violence, gender-based violence, murders, I mean, rape, sexual assault. Yeah, it is just endless. It's
Okay, so because I would want to know what to what level is the brain off, because we have had cases where maybe people, both of them were drunk and something happened and maybe it's now a rape case but both were drunk. So as a doctor, like,
yeah, okay.
who is in wrong? Because they are both drunk, like, to what level is there consent? Can I crack a deal when I'm drunk? Can I sign a paper when I'm drunk? Am I understanding to some extent?
You know, anyway, it's also easy to blame the alcohol for everything. I mean, it is easier, but to some extent, the person has to take responsibility. But yes, at the same time, the time comes when a person is too drunk that they cannot actually function, they cannot reason. Maybe then, yes, someone is too intoxicated, so they lose. So I don't know whether how, but I guess there's the legal system is in place. If you say if both of them were drunk, does it qualify as rape? Is it not? Who was more drunker? Yeah, just to put it this way, as a doctor, health coach, I would just say, yeah, manage yourself, manage your life. Yeah.
Okay. And
So-
then also in terms of weight loss, or people think that alcohol leads to weight loss, probably because of the appetite ups and downs. So what does it lead to? Low appetite?
I've heard of that theory a couple of times. Yes, alcohol reduces the appetite because the brain is more focused on the liquid diet, the alcohol itself. At the same time, we've already talked about how it takes the glucose away from the body, even the micronutrients. Yeah, to some extent, someone can lose weight, but at what cost do you lose weight? Because you're also going to damage your liver, your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your stomach. Even you might say that's why a lot of Ugandans are dealing with ulcers. Yes, the stomachs are dealing with that alcohol daily. So, and because the more it damages the stomach, the more you get ulcer. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have done drinking. We're in a situation where maybe a group has gone out to drink and then one is too drunk, like they have blacked out. Yeah, because there's maybe they're intoxicated by alcohol. What first aid, like if people are together and one of them has blacked out due to alcohol, what first aid can you give that person for them to be better? Some people use water. Then there's a myth that you pee in the person's mouth, and then I don't know how people do that, but anyway, so all those things. If you were in that situation and you're a doctor, first aid before you reach the hospital, what would you do to save this person's life?
Okay, yeah, that one is wild. I have never heard of that. That's science, maybe. It may be choo-choo, but so yeah, I think the main impact, or when we talk about alcohol intoxication, is we talked about a lot about the glucose, so the lack of that sugar. So the earlier you can get that person to take sugary food or sugar, or even put in a cannula and giving them D50, all of that at least brings because the worst thing it will do is to kill the brain, and the brain needs that sugar now. Yeah. So that's the main alcohol intoxication sort of yeah.
So so just even if the person can still like drink, you can give them like a soda, or like, you mean like sugar?
Yeah, you can give them soda.
Give them sugar, take them to the hospital.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, hope you've had. Yeah, and then also I'd want to know at what point. Okay, I think the best thing to do is to stop taking alcohol. But in case someone does not want to stop, because we cannot force people to stop, what is too much? Like, is there a way you can tell someone that every week take these milliliters of alcohol to be safe, or take 1 bottle a week, in case someone doesn't want to stop? What is too much and what is okay?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there are actually some theories which we even learned at school that you'll say alcohol has health benefits for the heart. Yeah, there are also some countries, I'm not sure about Uganda, but yeah, even UK, US, they have limits for men and women. Ideally, women have a lower threshold to alcohol, so they're supposed to take less in a week. But I wouldn't want to be the one to endorse it and say, yeah, if you just take 1 drink, maybe. But yeah, but at the same time, considering that if you have been taking alcohol, and then it's, of course, you cannot just go off alcohol, because we can also have what we call withdrawal, which itself can be dangerous. So there's a way of tapering the alcohol, maybe going to rehabilitation centers, maybe finding an expert. There are some medications which can help you when you take that. As soon as you take the alcohol, you get hangover without being drunk. So they remove the drunkenness, the fun part, take you direct to the hangover, the sickness. And in fact, there are people like some Asians who lack an enzyme, which means for them, when they take alcohol, they just get sickness. So yes, that's some of those drugs which are already out there. But of course, maybe prescribed by a psychiatrist, or at least even going to a rehabilitation center to help you to deal with it.
Yeah. So also about the hangover, I forgot to on that. When someone has a hangover, they have drunk, the next morning they're feeling bad, they are vomiting, they have headache. How can they become better? Like, what can they do? Is there a way, like maybe drink water, eat?
So a lot of it is to do with the impacts of alcohol on. We talked about the brain, even alcohol damages sleep, because you don't actually sleep well. So even there's sleeplessness, you are hungry, the glucose, the dehydration, the body you are thirsty, there's less of water, a lot of nutrients are missing. The stomach itself is sick because that irritation, it's inflamed. So yeah, I guess you just have to find a way to manage all of those at once. Taking a lot of food, sleeping well, all of those. Now you'll have to recover back. Yeah,
you have to recover
all the damage. Yeah.
Okay, then lastly, at what point does someone know that they are addicted to alcohol? Like, at what point do you know that this is becoming too much?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I think there's a question you asked before. There are people who has less addiction risk to alcohol than others. And part of it is also personality-wise. Yeah, there are people who are less likely to get addicted. But there are others who maybe might say they get addicted to it easily compared to maybe others. Yeah. So all of those things, I think you can say addiction, I don't know if it develops when we talked about withdrawal, when you cannot stay without alcohol for a while without actually getting sick. You can talk about maybe aspect of dependency. You need alcohol, whereas what we call eye openness. You wake up in the morning and you need alcohol actually to go to work, just to function. So now it literally becomes part of you. And then you can actually say you are having substance use disorder. Yeah.
Okay. So, doctor, do you take alcohol?
Not really.
Okay, just wanted to ask. So, because most people take alcohol to become happy. So I'd want to know personally, what do you do to be happy? Because someone could be taking it, they have a problem, they're depressed, and they don't know that there are other ways to be happy because we're going through a lot. So as Dr. Yacoub, what makes you happy? Maybe someone could pick from that. And
Yeah, behavioral science is a hard. I think medical, yes, it's easier to tell someone to stop taking alcohol, but behaviors are hard to change. And what does it mean? So even growing up in a culture, let me say, I know there are some communities in Uganda where they say even the first thing a baby does is to take some marua or alcohol. So the culture is already so ingrained with it. So it is really hard to change, especially the older you get. Because if someone knew alcohol as the only way to enjoy and wind down the day, it's a long way, because that means that person has to change the lifestyle, has to change their friends. So it is hard. As for me, thankfully, yes, I have not grown up with it. And everything from watching maybe movies, football, sports. Yeah, there are other ways to release stressors, to deal with stresses. Now, unfortunately, ironically enough, you can say in Uganda, a lot of youth are not finding alcohol that attractive. However, they are going for more hardcore drugs. Smoking, not even much of smoking, but there are more extreme drugs, maybe even marijuana, which is why we can even have a lot of overdose people who are dying now because of taking or maybe mixed substances, mixing alcohol with other substances, because they are not getting that high. So yeah.
So you've hinted on marijuana. I know. Yeah. Okay. I want us to talk about that because it's becoming a problem. So if I have a friend and I notice they are addicted to a substance, maybe they cannot live without smoking, because some of these people smoke too. You will find someone, they're like, when I smoke, I'm wise. I will answer things in class. I will do this. I will be effective. When I smoke, I'm happy and everything. So for such a person, how do you help? Is there a way you can help without a rehabilitation center? Is that even possible? How can you get this person out of that pithole?
Yeah, okay, it's a good question. So it tells you a lot about why do we do what we do, in a sense. So someone will take alcohol or even smoke just to kill off that anxiety, just to relax the brain, just to remove the depression. So ideally, you'll see someone has to deal with all these other reasons maybe before they deal with the alcohol. Same thing with the someone who has went through traumatic event, to some extent traumatic accident or even childhood trauma. Yes, they can be using the alcohol or the smoking as a coping mechanism. So it means you have to go back. So I would say it's rehabilitation, maybe a therapist, maybe a doctor, a psychiatrist, someone who can also prescribe nicotine patches, because also there's also the physical part of the addiction, which you have to also wind down and remove from the body. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So we have come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much. So I'd want you to give closing remarks to the public, just to summarize everything we have talked about, and just a word about substance abuse and to anyone out there who may be experiencing that.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think number one, it's not good to be judgmental. Yes, we all have different upbringing, life situations. So there's no righteousness, in a sense, whether someone is on substance use or not. But at the same time, we all have that free will to make a decision today to say, let me not take it, both for the medical risks we talked about, for the other lifestyle risks, even the financial risks alcohol can have, life and death, all of those things. So I think, and I've met a couple of people who stopped taking alcohol just because they witnessed their parents, maybe violence, divorce, cheating, all of those things, which has made them to swear off taking alcohol. So I think we still have that free will. We still have that ability to decide what to do with our lives. And yes, there's help. There's help available. There are experts. There are trained people who can take you through that path. At the same time, to the families, if the parents who have kids like that, there's an element of, yes, empathy, but there's also an element of what we call codependency. So ideally, you cannot necessarily have a child who's dealing with addiction if not they are getting sponsored by someone, probably the parent. So also parents play a role, and there's a lot to be done. But I think for the individual, take a stand, and no amount of alcohol is good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yacoub, for the episode. To our audience, hope you've picked something. You've seen alcohol, substance abuse, smoking, all that is a risk factor for so many things. When you're studying, I just want you to check, does alcohol put me at risk of any cancer you want to think about? Alcohol is a risk factor for cancers, for DM, hypertension, for so many things. So I want you to see how you're taking the alcohol, reduce or stop. If you're smoking, stop. Would want you to stop. There's no judgment, but the best thing to do is to stop. You can look out for help. Our numbers are open. They'll be put down there. You can call my doctor, call anyone who can help you, talk to someone. Addiction is something that is not good, but you can come out of it. And yeah, we can do these lifestyle changes so that we are able to go old, healthier, and happier. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode. Next week, we will be talking about diet. What is a balanced diet? What are some of the healthy foods, the unhealthy foods? How we're going to be giving you a meal plan, literally, like what can you eat during the week that is healthy? What are other things that contribute to a balanced diet that are not even part of food? So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So thank you so much for watching this far. This is the My Doctor podcast. My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere.
My Doctor, your health anytime, anywhere.